All right. All right. We're live, I guess. A few technical difficulties, but we're up and running right now. I want to thank you for being here tonight, taking the time out of your evening to join me. I got a lot planned. I got a lot to share with you, and of course, we'll wait a few minutes for others to join. I'm not going to jump into things right now as we're waiting for others to get on here. If you are on, and you'll see a you'll see a little link in the bottom. I think it's the bottom left hand corner. If you click on that, you'll be able to participate and to ask some questions. There'll be a Q&A function, and you can use that to to ask me some questions while we're going through here. Um, yeah, again, we'll just kind of give it a few minutes here. And before we jump into things, of course, if you did see the topic tonight, we're going to talk about flare-ups, and I think it's definitely safe to say that there's nothing worse than experiencing a flare-up. You know, as far as having Crohn's, living with Crohn's disease, um, it's it's got to be the most painful thing, and I think that's probably like I mean, that's Crohn's in its fullest is like in that moment of just being so sick, so much in pain, and really looking for this relief. And and the good news is I have some great tips, some great techniques that do work. They were very beneficial for me, and they work great. And I really want to share them with you and go through them so you can apply them into your life, and you'll find relief. I guarantee it. It absolutely works. So again, just going to wait a few more minutes, get a few more people on this before I jump into some of the details. And again, if you're just joining now, you can click on the link in the bottom left hand corner if you're watching this live right now, and you can open up the Q&A option. And definitely, I'd love to take a few questions, maybe a little later on. But anyway, just to start, we'll go with some of this here. Um, so anyway, if we were to look at everything and the journey, I excuse me, I don't expect anyone to be able to stop a flare up dead in its tracks tonight, tomorrow, the next time it happens. It takes a while. It's like anything in life. I mean, and any sort of changes to your health, whether it's weight loss or building muscle, it's not you're not just going to be able to lift a couple hundred pounds tomorrow. You have to build up to it, and the same applies to these techniques, and really to learning how to live with Crohn's, and to I truly believe, and it's happened for me and it's happened from others. Healing is your perception on it. And I think healing is your outlook on the disease and the elimination of pain. And yeah, there might be scarring, there might be scar tissues, there may be like past surgeries and things, but you can still move forward. You can still have a fresh new look on this disease, and and really change your future, and what happens, and lessen the times that you may have a flare up, and really to be able to almost avoid them entirely. um, I've It's been almost 18 months since I've had a flare up, because I've maintained these techniques and I've worked on these techniques. I still have days. Today was getting very stressful in the afternoon, and I could just feel some of the tightness, a little bit of the, like, you can feel that anxiety and that stress just building up in your gut, in my gut, excuse me. And I know what's happening. I'm very aware. I'm very in tune with it, and I know how to subside it, and I don't let it go any further. I don't let it escalate. And these are the techniques. What I did today and what I've done in the past. this is what I'm going to share with you tonight. So, again, if to look at, where do we start? You know, we should start with, in assuming that there will be more flare-ups down the road for you. Okay, so if that happens, how can we best manage it? And I definitely want to start out with, how can we manage a flare up? What's the best way to manage a flare up? And honestly, the best thing you can do is, the second you feel it coming on, you have to just stop everything. You need to just stop. If you're in a position to, if you're home, that's great. I mean, just literally get on the couch, just stop everything. Don't worry about anything. Don't stress any further, and just try to relax your body. Try to relax your mind. And if you're not in a position, maybe you're driving, maybe you're out or something, anything that you can do. If you have to pull over, I've pulled off the highway in the past. I've had to I mean, you just physically cannot be sitting in a car driving when a flare up is coming. And I've done that. I've gotten off the road and I've waited it out. um, so again, stop everything, really just rest, and try to just calm yourself. I know it's really hard to, to have all these thoughts that it's happening again. It's inevitable, and it's kind of like that going up the roller coaster and then just getting dumped over the other side. And I mean, that's how it was for me. It was always, here we go. You just kind of get on the ride, wait for it to get to the top, and it's going to dump you. And I never knew how to stop it, how to get off it. Um, but I learned some really powerful ways, and of course, that's what I'm going to share with you tonight. But again, it's about trying to put on the brakes. If you can picture yourself, going up that roller coaster, if you can just put on the brakes and not go off the other side, that's the key. That's where you want to, to think first, is to stop. Try to stop it. um, Stop it, and really just focus on lowering the pain, and lowering, we know that it's happening right in our gut. We know that we're feeling this anxiety, this stress. Maybe it's something you ate. Maybe you're thinking about, what you ate, and it's just, I shouldn't have had that. You're having this guilt, and it's going to cause this flare up. And you're having all these thoughts, and you really want to just, first off, you don't want to have any guilt about anything that you've eaten. I mean, yes, we want to eat good, nutritious food, but in the event you ate something that maybe you feel you shouldn't, and you kind of knew you shouldn't, or you've been trying to avoid, and you did eat it anyway, you don't give yourself the guilt, because the guilt is going to lead to a flare up, and that's guaranteed. So you really want to, you want to relax your mind. You want to just focus on healing, focus on lowering that stress, and not allowing it to escalate any further. Um, I would say the biggest advantage, well, one of the two biggest things to do to, to either, manage, if not to avoid, but in the moment when it's coming on, stretching. It's an unbelievably powerful technique to lowering the pain, lessening the pain, really eliminating. I was at this point in my life where I felt that I wanted to exercise, and I really physically wasn't healthy enough to do so. And so I discovered a DVD that was put out by a woman who had Crohn's disease, and she healed herself, and it was a yoga DVD. And so I thought to myself, this was several years ago. I thought to myself, this would probably be a good thing for me to use, and it would allow me to stretch, because I felt tight. I was just, my body was full of inflammation, joint muscle pain, all of that stuff was happening. And I felt I needed to stretch. I needed to do something. But like I said, I really was not. I was physically unable to walk more than 50 or 100 feet before I was doubled over. And so I got the DVD, and I started using it, and it was really powerful. Like, it just really felt good. I could feel like I had these little blockages that would just kind of release, because some of the stretches, in your midsection. And what I found was that in times where I was having a flare up come on, I would go right down. I would get down on the floor, and I would start the DVD, and I would go through it. And no word of a lie, I was in these moment where it was intense pain. It was like the beginning stages of flare up, and I was between the stretching and the deep breathing that you have to follow to the yoga stretches and everything. I was able to eliminate the pain, to subside everything. And really, what was happening was I was de stressing from the situation, whatever I was in, I was de stressing, but I was also physically getting things to move because I could feel these blockages. And, and again, it's like unbelievably powerful. And it happened this one time, and I was blown away by how well it worked. And so the next time it happened, and it was again, I had the same success again. And it kind of got to this point where I was using it frequently because I'd start this thing, and I would like come in the door, I'd be having the start of a flare up, and I would just go up to my room, I would get down, and I would go through the yoga DVD. And half hour, it was about a half hour video. And as soon as it was done, I was back on my feet, wondering what's for dinner, like nothing had ever happened. And I started to really realize how necessary it is with the deep breathing and with the stretching, it really allows you to come down. Again, everything's kind of escalating, your stress levels, whether it's throughout the entire day or if it's in this moment, maybe something's really stressing you out. And then on top of that, you know, moving and not being, laying on the couch, which is what I used to do. I mean, just lay on one side and just sit with it. And it was just like it was the most painful thing. I mean, you know it too. It's just the most painful thing to go through flare up. But moving, stretching and like pushing yourself to release this pressure, release all um these I call them like pockets, these I don't know if it's air or what it is, but these pockets. And they'd be so built up on a blockage, on an obstruction, and it would, there's, I mean, obviously there's so much going on, but it would just relieve so much pain. So I would definitely encourage you to find an exercise routine, a stretch. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of them, and I can definitely I'll put up a link to the DVD that I used. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I mentioned the deep breathing, and because along with the stretching, the deep breathing, our lungs actually massage the top of our gut. Like if you can picture your lungs when they're breathing, expanding, filling up, and they actually massage the top of our gut, which is where our central nervous system is. I mean, there's countless nerve endings sitting right there, and it really just de-stresses, completely de-stresses the mind and the body. And so it's that combination of the deep breathing, slow, deep breathing with the with the stretches. It really eliminates, the pain and this flare, and it just kind of pushes it back and suppresses it. Um, so I mean, again, if you're in this moment, if you're feeling it coming on, the best thing you can do is just get down. And the truth is, it may not work every time, and it may not work right away. Like I said, it took me a couple times, but all of a sudden, this one time, it I was able to keep it at bay. It didn't escalate to the point of no return, which is how they always were for me. I mean, once I kind of got over this, like I said, the roller coaster, when I would go over the edge, that was it. I mean, I was down for the count for the rest of the evening, sick for hours, and out of commission for the next day. So if you can, work on this again, practice it. This isn't something that's going to happen right away, but you know what? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're going to notice some major improvements. That depending on how frequent your flare-ups are. And at the time, for me, I was experiencing very frequent flare-ups, a couple times a week actually, and some very major. Some was just some minor pain, but definitely multiple times in a week, I was experiencing it. Um, so now I would say, if again, like it'd be hard for me to show you. I want to show you the stretches really bad, but I'm really not set up right now to do so. And like I said, I'll definitely post that. But I definitely encourage to find, you know, it's almost instinctively too. If you can just feel it, any sort of like twisting, like uh, reaching out, just trying to lengthen your abdomen is the key. Is to just open up. So any sort of stretching and lengthening and bending backwards, anything to just really open up. But remember, the deep breathing is what you have to include the deep breathing with it. Um, but anyway, I as much as I want to show it to you, I'll put up the link for you, and I highly recommend getting it because it's an absolute miracle. But if we can look at like the process and the flare up, and then if nothing else works, if you haven't used a hot water bottle, go get one. It's the next best thing. A lot of people talk about using hot water bottles when they're having flare ups, and obviously, like, unfortunately, when you kind of get to that point, at least for myself and from others I've spoken with, it kind of just, there's not much you can do about it, and you kind of have to just ride it out. And a hot water bottle is really the next best thing to to feel better, to try to lessen the pain as much as possible. I certainly, I never, I definitely had very bad experiences. I mean, literally, probably hundreds of flare-ups over the years, and some very major. A lot of them very severe. Some very major, and it's nothing that I want for anybody. And I really, 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 want to help, want to promote healing, want to promote, a better way of approaching, instead of giving, kind of just laying on the couch, giving into it. Because, man, I didn't know any of this existed. Any of this was possible for so long. And, that's why I really want to share all this information with you, is to learn how to, to learn how to apply these techniques so you can, make the best of the situation is really what it comes down to. And then, of course, if as you get better, and you will, as you learn how to manage any flare-ups that do come, you know well, the next best thing we can do is try to stop them before they happen. And how do you stop it from even starting? And the answer is very simple, but this one is something you really have to work on. And you can get to this level, but you have to work on it. And it's really just simple as avoiding stress. Um, and what can be difficult, but very exciting at the same time, is learning how to tune into yourself, tune into when you feel it, and that's what we feel. Our emotions, we feel, and we hold them here in our gut. And as you start to tune into yourself and to notice these situations, whether it's somebody or something, or some, sometimes it's uncontrollable, but it's how you manage it that's going to make the difference. And you really want to be able to not stress out, obviously, to not stress in these situations, and to be able, to just kind of relax through them. um, you know I remember this one time, we were in this, like, it was like everything hit at once. And I just felt myself getting so stressed out because everything was just, like I said, all at once, was just coming down. And I've been working on it for several weeks, working on tuning into myself, and I could just feel it coming on. I could see the scenario and like what was happening around me. And again, it wasn't anything physical. It was people's demands, like other situations, and it was like all in this one moment, this one day. And I just was able to, like, you know re- recognize, that's the word, to recognize what it is, and be aware of it. And when you can see it, then you can assess it, and you don't have to stress about it. You don't have to have this anxiety about it. And then other events, you just have to let them roll. You have to let them just happen. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, and that's okay. You have to be okay with it. And another thing is to really give boundaries to yourself. That's a great way to avoid flare-ups. And by that, I mean, if somebody asks you to be here at one time and someone's asking you to be here another time, and maybe things are like really tight and you're not going to have a lot of time to get from one thing to the next, and then is waiting for an email and you have to be at dinner, and like all these things are kind of, your schedule is like so jammed up. You have to tell, you got to tell somebody or a couple of people, no, I can't tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it later. And that's okay. And that's one thing that I learned, and I found great relief from, was telling people no, telling someone, thank you very much, but I can't do that right now. And, I can get to that tomorrow. So when you start to set up these boundaries and set up these limitations for yourself and for your life, you're going to find a lot more peace, and you're going to create a much more relaxing and non-stressful environment for yourself. And when you do that, you can actually think very clearly when things happen, and you can feel very clearly when things happen. Things that would have, in the past, say, would have stressed you out and caused a flare up. Um, I mean, I'll say absolutely, stress definitely causes flare ups. Now, it's not to say you could eat something and, you might have a little bit of reaction to it. I mean, or you could have a big reaction to it. Um, Everyone's different. The way food affects us is very personalized to yourself. So, yeah, you could eat something, it could have this physical effect, but I can guarantee, and it's something that I've experienced personally, that, and I had spoken about this guilt, is that we subconsciously will eat something and we'll have this guilt. We'll feel that it's not right for us. We're afraid, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat, I'm eating this and it just went into my body and it's going to get stuck. And I mean, these were thoughts I had, and I'd stress myself right out. And guess what? Guess where I'd be? On the couch, sick, all night, growing up, you name it, the whole flare up, it's happening. And it was all because I was worried. I was like, I kind of like spun myself into a frenzy, like worrying about what I just did, what did I eat, and kind of having this guilt and this regret. And I'm going to say it right now, absolutely, again, don't have any guilt. Don't give yourself any guilt. If you do eat something, just try to let it be, and really try to be thankful for it, right? you know it's I mean, unless it's like Little Debbie's or something like that, it's going to be there's going to be some component of nourishment. And again, if it's just that one little thing, it's really not going to do much for you. But what's going to do a lot for you though is stressing about it, and worrying about what I just ate that and I'm going to get sick. So stress absolutely is the trigger for flare-ups. Now, it's not to say let's say you ate something. I know for me, mashed potatoes and red meat, I couldn't eat them for years. I've had some lately. Doesn't cause any problems for me. But when I gave them up, I remember a couple of moments where I had tried them again, and it felt stuck. Like it was really hard for me to digest. Let's say that. And but I didn't have a flare up. I could feel it that was hard to digest, but I didn't have a flare up. So again, like, I think we can eat something that can be difficult to digest, but but it's our stress and it's our anxiety that's going to cause us to have this flare and to be sick, and to be in absolute incredible, so much, all this pain. So, definitely, we want to tune into ourselves. We want to tune into our thoughts. We want to tune into, what around us might be stressing us. Are we not giving ourselves enough time in the morning before work? Are we waking up too late? Are we rushing? Are we trying to do too many things? Are we grabbing too many things to get out the door? Are we, fumbling to just put on our shoes to tie our laces? Like not allowing enough time. And that goes back to, not only setting your boundaries up, but time management. I mean, that's really a whole nother talk. But giving yourself enough time to do what you need to do to get out the door is extremely important, because when you're rushing, when you're feeling like you have to do all these things and you're late and you're rushing and now you're stressed. And you know what? I think we can all remember times where we've done that, and we've we've felt pain, we've had flare-ups. And so, again, we want to, you know, you want to acknowledge the state of your health, and that you're trying to heal, you're in repair mode, and you kind of have to power down, you have to slow life down, you have to say no to things, you have to give yourself more time, and to really allow yourself and to heal. But to do that, you have to give yourself a nice space, a nice safe space in order to do that. And so, giving yourself more time, saying no to people, to things, to places, that's extremely important. And just overall, just really not stressing. Um, but but again, tuning into these things, right? So if we, okay, so how do we know when something's stressing us out? And there really isn't, there's no like exact answer, but you have to tune into yourself. You know, again, it's this intuition where that something's stressing you out. Excuse me. You feel it, and don't again, don't think it. Don't think, is this stressing me out? You want to feel it in your gut. You want to start to tune in. You want to feel it come on, and when you feel it coming on, well, this is what we talked about in the very beginning. Okay, let's do some deep breathing. Let's do some stretching if you need to. A lot of times, and even today, like I said, today was a very busy afternoon, and just some focus, refocusing my thoughts, my energy, a little deep breathing, and just kind of being aware of the situation. That's all it takes. And it's not painful, I don't have pain, but I feel it, I can feel it coming on. And it just takes just this awareness to put it away, to put it, like, to suppress it, to tell yourself, kind of, not now, there's nothing stressful going on, and just being able to continue forward with the rest of the day. And I'll tell you, when you can apply these techniques, and when you can learn how to tune into yourself and tune into your thoughts and your feelings. Again, your feelings are in our gut. We think with our mind and our brain, and we feel with our gut. And when you can do that, when you have this power, I'll tell you, it really feels like a superpower. It feels, to be able to, like, turn it off in the moment is amazing. It's a blessing. And this is stuff that anyone can do. You can do it. Yeah, it might seem very difficult. It might seem, very hard to understand it, maybe, but the only way to understand it is to do it, and to, again, to feel it. I think that's the biggest thing, is just to feel it coming on, and know that it's coming on. When you have that awareness, that's the biggest key. So, I know it's probably so overused, but if you think about, like, riding a bike, it seems very difficult. I mean, hands down, it's extremely difficult if you're starting out, right? If you've never ridden a bike before, it's a very difficult task. But with a little bit of practice, it's got to be the easiest thing in the world. Once you're doing it, once you know how to do it, it's really not that hard. So, I see this as the same. Like, it's really, really not that hard. But how do you get to that level? How do you learn how to do it? How do you, know all these things? And it's just something you have to do. You have to apply these techniques. So I would definitely say, to just kind of recap, all the points that we hit on tonight. And, if you're already, you're feeling it, you're feeling a flare coming on, the first thing is to stop, and to just stop and slow down and focus where you're at. Focus your energy, realize what's happening, and try to focus on lowering the pain. And remember to use the deep breathing. Deep breathing is, remember, it massages it physically massages our body, our gut, and our nerve endings that are in the central nervous system. And then to stretch. Make sure we're stretching. Make sure to move things around. Deep breathing and move around. Don't stay still. it's not going to help. You're just going to be stuck. You have to move around. You have to stretch, real slow, real gentle. It does work. It's an absolute miracle. Um, and again, if things go too far, and there are going to be times that they will. If you've never used a hot water bottle for flare up, absolutely get one. It's the last resort. It's the next best thing, or I shouldn't say the final best thing. Um, and then of course, we want to go ahead to stopping the flare before it even comes. And again, stop everything. Like, know where you're at. Know that it's coming on. Feel that it's coming on. Be aware that it's coming on. And be aware of situations, people, places, these things. It's usually never, I mean, it's almost never anything physical. It's always something, emotional. It's our thoughts. It's the way that we're maybe not managing our time. So again, time management, giving yourself time, setting up your boundaries, creating space, not allowing people to take up your energy and take up your time, and being able to tell people no, say no to things and events and places, and sometimes work or job or whatever it is. Like, you have to give yourself time, and give yourself that space, and then to tune in and be more aware. It's that awareness. It's that tuning in with that awareness and knowing where you're at. It's like flipping on the lights. It'd be like walking around in a house with no lights on. It's not going to be easy. You're going to be bumping into walls, into tables, into couches. But you turn on the lights, you can see where you're going. So having this awareness and tuning in is like turning on the lights. It's like having a map. You know how to get there. You know where you're going, because you know what's causing, these flares. Or rather, what could be causing the flares. Things that do stress you out. Um, there's a lot more that we can talk about, and I mean, really, this stuff can go very deep, but this is kind of a starting point, and it's something that you can use. I highly encourage you to apply it. I mean, and I'll add this too, because like anything, like, don't wait for it to happen to start doing this. Start stretching, start to focus, start to be conscious, start, use some of the deep breathing throughout the day, if it's, so you don't have to like wait for it to come on to apply these techniques. These are things that you can do, all day long. And of course, bringing that awareness to stressful situations. Just tune in, be alert, be aware. um, so that's everything I got prepared for tonight. Like I said, there's a lot more I can share with you, but I'm going to save it for another time. And if you do have any questions, always email me. You can email me direct at Mike, Mike, at crohnshealth.com. And you can visit my website, www.crohnshealth.com. If you want to learn more about what I do as a coach and how I can help and support and guide you to, these are some of the techniques. I mean, these are the techniques that I use with my clients. So these are just some of the things that I do, that I help my clients work on. And I'll tell you, proven success for everyone. So, um, thank you. Thanks for taking the time tonight to be with me. And, we'll look forward to the next one. And I'd love to go into some of this more in depth, and I'll be in touch, and I'll let you know. So thank you again.